So I'm going to talk about conference presentation. And so as we, prepare to present, we need to have our work in slides, okay? So the first slide should contain the title of your work and the authors of the work, okay? So you need to give names of the authors and their affiliation, right? So who are the authors, okay? We also need to know who the authors are. So we have probably the principal investigator, whose name is going to appear, and the co-authors. So who would we consider as co-authors? Now, co-authors are persons that have made substantial contribution to conception of the idea, design of the idea, data collection, data analysis, and interpretation of such data. So that becomes a co-author. So again, there are other people who may not have participated in designing, but they have participated in drafting the work and revising it critically. For example, I was writing a paper which I did alone, but I felt I needed to give it to somebody who is much, exposed in research to look it through, so that I'm sure that it qualifies. So I gave it to a senior person to look at it. So in that case, this person revised it critically for important intellectual content. So that becomes a co-author. The other aspect of when we are looking at co-authors who to include in our studies is, anyone that would give a final approval to that kind of abstract. So those are co-authors, okay? But other times, so we are allowed to include up to 15 co-authors in our papers. Up to 15 co-authors in our papers. And remember, sometimes the authors would be in groups, okay? So you include a team, and you include their names, and other co-authors, but they must be 15, okay? So when you're indicating co-authors' affiliations, you do not use abbreviations, but there are exceptions. For example, when you want to write that somebody is affiliated to CDC, then you just write CDC, or WHO, you'd write WHO, okay? So if you're coming from a school or a teaching institution, you do not have to include the school name or the department name. Once you include the institution name, that's it. Okay, but then again, other than co-authors, there are other research collaborators, right? They may not have appeared or have been listed under co-authors, but they collaborated with you during this research. So such people must also be recognized. Then we also have other people that contributed in the project, but they may be dead at the time you're presenting. So again, you need to recognize them about the role they played in your study. Now, when you're unable to come around and do presentation of your study, of your abstract, right, then you need to send an email to the contact person. In this case, Milka, for this, in this context, Milka, indicating that you'll not be coming over to do your presentation, but then you choose a co-author from your list and clearly indicate that this is the person that is going to present your work, and indicate the title of your work. That is what happens. Of course, there are times we may have, attended conferences, then you realize that some people that submitted abstracts are not around to present. So whenever you intend not to attend a conference for which you had submitted an abstract, you need to recruit somebody and communicate duly. I think because of time, I'm going to rush. So again, before you do your presentation, you need to get in touch with the IT guys 2 hours before you appear to present, just to ensure that your work is rightly captured, right? To avoid interruption. So how should our slides look like? So we really need to have very few slides, about 10 slides or 15 at most, and each slide is going to take 1 minute presentation. Okay, meaning that each slide should contain about less than 7 lines, right? Less than 7 lines. And as you write your points on the slides, remember they're just points. They are not full sentences. Write points, and then now you will elaborate as you present, the way I'm doing. Okay? So then, it means, therefore, if you're going to write points, you're only going to write interesting parts of your study, right? Only interesting parts of your study, and maybe any new finding that is getting added to the existing body of literature, and that is what is interesting in your study, okay? So when you do your slides, you use standard fonts like Times Roman, right? Arial or Helvetica, okay? Those are the standard fonts, and you also would use a font of 32. That's ideal. Some people would use 28, but you know, we strain to see, so you use 32, okay? Now, tips while presenting. Now, assume you've done your presentation, your slides are good. So how do you present while here? Practice before you come here. Dress appropriately when you come here to present, and stand straight, okay? Maintain eye contact. Yeah? Maintain eye contact, speak clearly, right? And do not read from your slides, right? Because you had practiced. As you do your presentation, remember each slide takes 1 minute, so stay within time limit, right? As I'm doing now, okay? And now, after the presentation, remember there's about 2 or 3 minutes for questions and answer session, right? So while handling questions, always repeat the question that has been posed from the audience. Repeat it for clarity, okay? Then, when answering such question, don't engage the person that asked the question for a long time, right? And finish by asking this person, did I really answer you correctly? Okay? But then again, there are times a question will be posed which you cannot answer, right? So just say, well, I would not answer that question for now, and you could throw it back to the audience to help you answer, or you could refer, you could, you know, ask to be allowed time to do some research about it. That's acceptable, right? Because you may not have all the questions, all the answers to questions, okay? And, you know, so then you would say that you may have to respond to that question later, right? So you could also suggest resources where, you know, such ideas could be found for if they want to get answers to such question, and provide a chance to the audience to contribute in, as I have said, okay? So that brings me to the end of my presentation about abstracts.